Hello, dear listeners. This is Paul and Jeff from the Doctor Who Corner to Corner podcast. Notice how I slipped Doctor in front of the Who there, just in case there was any doubt that we are a Doctor Who podcast.
Just in case anyone was listening to this and they weren't sure what it was about.
They're not sure. Yes, it's not about anything else other than Doctor Who, and we are absolutely delighted to have the fabulous Millie McKenzie join us on this session of Meet the Whovians. So, Millie, hello and welcome to the show.
Hello, Paul. Hello, Jeff. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I've only just discovered your podcast randomly a couple of weeks ago, and all of a sudden, I feel like you guys are my best friends.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, you
Thank you so much.
You commented, didn't you, on one of the podcast tweets to say something like, just to let you know, I love you guys or something.
Yes.
And then I was following you, and I think then like 20 minutes later or something, I said, "Oh, that's my podcast" or something, and you hadn't connected that, you know, it was me and it was the podcast and things. So it was really nice that you said that about, you know, the podcast and us just sort of kind of naturally, as it were, without, you know, knowing
without
that,
paying any money, without any money.
Well, yeah, and that too, yeah. So no. If people listening don't know, Millie, her Twitter name is at Cowbear Creates, isn't it?
Yes.
Which we can ask you about in a minute. But Millie has been making absolutely fantastic models of the Doctors and aliens and all sorts of characters that you might have seen popping up online and on Twitter and Instagram. And you've had some of the pictures in Doctor Who magazine as well. Is that right?
Yes, I have. I had a whole article once as well. It was a 2-page spread. It was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how that happened. I think there must have been I got the message from Simon, please forgive me, I can't pronounce his last name, Guerrilla or something. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yes.
I can see it, I can read it, but I cannot pronounce it. But he messaged me via Instagram, and then it was going in for the Monday that next. So they must have had somebody back out at the last minute, I think. But that was pretty exciting.
Right. Yeah, that was still cool. And then in Ray Holman's feature, in the previous issue, he mentioned you, and you had a little box out as well, didn't you? So Millie, you're on the other side of the world and in a whole other time zone from us at the moment, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I'm in New Zealand. I'm at the bottom of the world. So I'm a Kiwi through and through.
Or the top of the world if you turn it upside down.
Yes. Yeah. I like the way you think.
There you go. Always a positive. That's me.
So, Millie, we'll come on to your wonderful creations shortly, but tell us, first of all, how did you discover Doctor Who? Because I imagine that being on the other side of the world as you are, it's probably going to be a little bit different to how, you know, Paul and myself and, you know, other people back here in England might have discovered it.
Yes, it is very different to most people I think I've communicated with since I've been online in the fan base, because I didn't discover it as a child. I watched my very first episode when I was 35. So that was in 2014, which was Deep Breath, Peter Capaldi's first episode.
Yeah.
And that was my first episode of Doctor Who. I'm pretty sure I must have seen it as a child because I knew what it was. I knew what the TARDIS was. I knew the general idea about it. And I know that my brother did watch it when I was a kid, but I didn't pay any attention to it or I didn't see it or they didn't make me watch it. So, I started watching it in 2014 because I could finally tune in the TV channel that it was on my bunny ears. I couldn't do it on my bunny ears, but when I got Sky installed, which is a satellite dish, I could finally tune the channel in, and I started watching it, and it just happened to be the very first episode of A New Doctor, which was a perfect starting on point. And brilliant. I got instantly obsessed.
Yeah, a good jumping on point, yeah. Brilliant. So after that, presumably you carried on watching, you know, into Jodie Whittaker's era, but did you go back and start watching more as well? And how did you get hold of those? I guess it's, classic Who is not always readily available on telly kind of anywhere. And obviously there's DVDs and things, but so, yeah, how did you explore the universe further?
With the help of Amazon. So after I finished the whole of Series 8, as it aired, I decided I like this. I like this program. I'm going to investigate what came beforehand. So I ordered all the rest of the new series up to the end of Series 7 and the Day of the Doctor on DVD, and then I watched all them by the time Series 9 began. And then during Series 9, I realised, you know what, I'm going to go all the way back. So that's when I also went and started to find all of the DVDs of all of the classics. And there was no order to it. I basically just saw a cover that looked cool or the title that looked cool, and I would buy a handful of them, maybe 6 or 7 of them, and get them all shipped over to me and watch them. So everything was out of order. I didn't know what anything was going on. But it was still fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So you must have gone on quite a substantial binge watch from between Series 8 and 9 then, if you were hitting, from Eccleston onwards after that.
Yes, indeed, it was a big binge. I pretty much got completely and utterly obsessed, and I didn't do anything else for that entire time except watch Doctor Who. And I loved it. There was a few moments in some of the earlier series that I didn't click with as well, but as we got into the Moffat era, it really took off, and I fell in love with it big time.
Brilliant.
So what was it about that kind of pulled you in then? Because you said a few times that you got obsessed by it. So what was the root of that obsession? What is it about Doctor Who that sort of triggered that in you, do you think?
I think it's just the magic of it. It's mysterious, it's intriguing, it's exciting, and it's quite funny as well. It's quite humorous. And it's also just a little bit scary, which I quite enjoy.
just a little bit. Just a little bit scary.
I got so scared. I got so scared on Listen with that blanket monster and Listen. I was so scared I didn't sleep for nearly a week. And I was 35 years old.
Freaky. Because that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because when we talk about being scared about things we've seen in Doctor Who, and we talk to other fans about this, it's quite often things that scared us when we were kids. So when we watched it when we were 6 or 7 years old or something, and obviously Millie, you saying you didn't come into the series until you in your 30s, and to still feel that kind of frizz-on, that thrill of kind of fear when you're watching it as an adult still happens, doesn't it? It's quite something.
My wife says, it's just a kid's show, it's not scary, and I don't agree with that, because I think even though as adults now we may not necessarily be scared in the way that you might be when you watch a horror film or something, but a kid watching it would be probably genuinely scared. But I think we can understand what the fear is, and what, why something is scary. But then on the flip side of that, like you said, Millie, it's just a blanket in Listen, but that sequence was bloody terrifying. And I remember watching Listen. My son had just been born, and I had to pause the episode something like 20 times to go and see to him, look after him and things, because he was only a couple of months old. But that bit I remember it was really quite scary. Because I think it's the element of the unknown as well with that bit, But it was that was an excellent sequence in the show.
I think also because it does go back to that childhood fear of something in the bed, the shape that you can't define, and your mind starts conjuring all kinds of monsters and demons and all sorts of things, and you don't want to see it. And yeah, do you know, I can feel the chills going up my spine even just thinking of that sequence now in the episode. Yeah, it's great.
Do you know one of Moffat's strengths, and he's got a lot, is taking sort of innocent things, childhood stuff and games and things, and corrupting them with fear. Yeah. And like the silence and stuff, and like what's the time, Mr. Wolf, and things like that. Is kind of like the weeping angels in a way and stuff, isn't it? So yeah, he's very clever with that, and even shadows become scary with him. He's a cruel genius.
Yeah. Even a crack in the wall is scary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But before watching that, it's a crack in the wall that you need to paint. And Moffat's turned it into something scary. Yeah. So Millie, now that you've gone back through, have you watched all of Classic Who, or sort of most of it? What's your situation there with it?
I've watched most of it, so I've seen everything except the final 2 McCoy stories, except for
right.
Yeah, except for the I haven't seen the ones that don't exist unless they've been animated. I don't like telesnaps.
So yeah, they're a bit tricky to kind of get on with, aren't they? And I haven't watched all of the animation ones either. We talked about this a while ago, didn't we, Paul? I said I haven't bought them because I was waiting for the collection box sets to get released with them in. So I was just going to get hold of them then. So which Doctor and which era have become your favourites? Your go-to?
Oh, Jodie, absolutely Jodie. My relationship with Jodie has been quite interesting because I came on board with Peter Capaldi, and I fell in love head over heels in love with him and everything about Doctor Who, and he was the image of Doctor Who in my mind. So when Jodie came on board, I was still mourning Peter Capaldi. I was just distraught. So I watched the whole of series 11 and really enjoyed it just as a TV show. But as far as I was concerned, like it wasn't Doctor Who anymore. It was just it was an awesome TV show, and I loved every second of it. But it wasn't. I couldn't associate it with that same program. And then series 12 hit, and it just blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. And I could feel the favoritism of Jodie creeping into my soul, and I was starting to get really, really scared that I was being unfaithful to Peter Capaldi for some strange, bizarre reason.
A traitor.
Yeah, like a traitor. And then finally, when Flux just like superseded everything that has ever become before it, is just the best series I've ever experienced of any type of TV. Not just the series itself, but the whole process of watching it, and the enjoyment and the thrill, and being on Twitter and talking to my friends that I've made that love the show as well. Not talking to the people that don't, because I don't want to talk to them. But and then I realized that, you know what, I'm not being unfaithful to Peter Capaldi. I can say Jodie is my favorite and still love Peter Capaldi.
Absolutely.
So Jodie is
that's the thing.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. Paul and I, as you know, we love her, and it was, pretty much immediate, certainly for me to, see her as a my favorite Doctor. And I don't like these polls of ranking Doctors and things. I love them all, but I think everyone has a Doctor or two that you kind of connect that little bit more with, and it's Jodie for me. But you do feel a bit like you're betraying and cheating on the previous Doctor, don't you? It's such an odd feeling, isn't it, when someone that you've been used to for a few years in the show goes and someone new comes in, and no other show does it in this way, do they? Cast members might come and go, and new people join and stuff, but it's not, it's very rarely the lead in this way, and so it's I think if you don't watch the show the way we do, you might not sort of understand the that kind of loss and the change that it goes through. It's quite unusual, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite interesting what you're saying about Flux. That's something I found particularly with this series, is that sense of like almost community. I think in an age of streamed TV where a lot of series are launched right at you can see every episode from the launch. It's less so the case now than it used to be maybe a year or two back. But I love the fact that everybody's watching it at pretty much the same kind of time each week, and all then jumping online to share their thoughts and kind of excitement of what they've just seen, and asking questions about what's going to happen next, and how on earth are they going to resolve this cliffhanger, and I never saw that coming in. Oh my god, there was this bit here, and oh my god. And you see, people are taking snaps off the TV and sharing ideas, and okay, there's a few sort of dissenters in there that there always will be, but I think with Flux the levels of excitement just went through the roof. I haven't experienced anything like that for a long time. Certainly not in Doctor Who, I don't think.
And it's interesting as well what you say there, Paul. Because obviously TV, back in the old days when we were all kids.
Back in the old days, dear. Oh yes. I was to wind up the telly with a handle round the back. Put your 50 pence in the meter. Your shillings.
I was talking to my kids about it actually the other day, and I said, you used to only have an hour of kids' TV a day.
There was only 3 channels back in them days as well.
And if you missed your show, that was it. That was it. It was gone. But
we were saying exactly the same thing to Freya just a few days back.
Yeah.
Actually, and she was asking like, well, what if you had something else to do? It's like you missed the show.
Yeah,
that was it. It was gone. It's history. You'll never see it ever in your life.
I don't think kids will ever realise how good they've got it now. But one of the things I like about Flux going weekly like that, and like the Disney Plus shows staying weekly, is exactly what you said, Paul. Everyone is then largely on the same page with it all. Whereas
brilliant. I love that.
Netflix will dump it all in one hit, and people are at different places with it. I think there's something to be said for keeping that kind of old style, weekly episodic structure, and it generates so much conversation.
It does. It really does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it reaches right around the world as well, doesn't it? Which is so great about it. Because obviously Millie's in New Zealand. There's people in the States, people in the other side of Asia, and it really does kind of bring people together. This sort of shared experience that we have, I think.
So, Millie, how do you get the show where you are? Because obviously we get it on Sundays at what was it, Paul, like 7 o'clock, something like that. So, do you get it simultaneously, or is it a bit later? How did it get to you?
It lands on our on-demand streaming service after it's finished in the UK, I think. So, if it takes 45 minutes or whatever, so that's when it hits New Zealand. I didn't know that during Flux because I was at work when it lands, so I had to uninstall Twitter for the day and then watch it when I get home. But Eve of the Daleks, because it was New Year's, it was a day after New Year's Day, so it was a holiday. Then I could see that you guys it was just about to air your guys, and it wasn't on our streaming service yet, but then I got a message just nearly about an hour later saying that it had just landed, so I figured it must be as soon as it finishes in the UK when it comes to us. So and the Halloween Apocalypse I watched I think 5 times in that first week. I loved it so much.
Wow.
That is obsession, isn't it?
That's really good.
That's what we all share, I think.
I'd do that if I wasn't busy with my kids. That's great that you get it so close to us, because back when we were all younger. But do you remember, a film would come out in America and it'd be 6 months or a year or something.
Oh man, we'd have to wait.
Yeah, you know that you had no choice about it, and some shows now, TV stuff, will air in the States, and even now it'll be a couple of months before we get it over here, which is just bizarre, in this day and age. But like my wife wanted to watch the Sex and the City series recently, and she said, why is it going on at 1 a.m. on Sky in the morning? And I said, well, that must be the same time it airs in America, and they're getting it simultaneously here. So a bit like for you, Millie, you're getting it an hour after us, and so it can be done. We can get everything.
The technology is there.
It is there, yeah. So, out of Jodie's episodes, which one was your favourite? And you can count Flux as one episode.
Flux is definitely my favourite episode.
It's Flux.
But if I had to choose a second favourite episode, it would probably be Oh gosh, this is where it gets difficult because they're all so good. I love The Haunting of
Yeah.
Villa Diodati. I love that one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, I love Fugitive of the Jadoon. I love all of Series
Mm,
12. I love all of Series 11. Every time you watch
yeah.
them, they just get better and better and better. And you just keep seeing
Yeah.
so many
Totally
different
agree. Yeah.
nuances on everybody's performances
Hmm.
and the subtleties in the writing. And when you watch it as a whole, like the
Yeah.
whole era of hers, and you can see, it's so clever. It's really, really
You see
yes,
connections, right?
yeah,
It's solid. There are
Yeah.
narratives that run at different times, at different layers, that sometimes touch other parts of other bits of narratives. The character development is, for me, more grounded,
yeah,
more relatable than it's ever been. Those characters feel like real people
Yeah.
putting a bizarre situation and then coping, adjusting, dealing with everything that's going on in their head, dealing with everything that's been going on in their lives, thinking about their futures. What are they going to do next? It's just, I must admit, sorry, I was going off on one there, but I agree. I love all of that stuff. It feels so much more solid. I love all of Doctor Who, but
Yeah.
this recent few series, the solidity, the cohesion between the different stories from beginning to end of this era has just felt beautifully constructed to me.
It feel that it's very human. I think none of the characters are. I love Clara. She's one of my favourite companions. But I think
You're obsessed with Clara.
I am obsessed with Clara. But I
You
think
don't
we
just
can.
love her, you are obsessed.
I would say that she didn't become a real character until Series 8. In Series 7, she was kind of a mystery device, and a lot of the characters, they become the most important thing in the universe, which is great. But I think what's been nice about the Jodie series is that everyone is human. I really liked the relationship between Ryan and Graham, and how that developed, and they kind of patched things up, and Yaz's journey, which has taken, it's spread across everything for her to become confident and accept herself, and kind of get her life on track, as it were, from the difficulties that she had. And I think like you said, there's lots of subtlety to it, and things that take a while to kind of play out, and maybe things don't kind of always work like that on shows these days, and it takes bit of getting used to, I think. But yeah, for me, much like you guys, it just everything about it just really connected with me. And like you just said, Millie, every time you watch it, you see something new and you enjoy performances. And I like spending time with these people and this Doctor, more than I have with anything else in the show's history. And I think it's just awesome.
Can I just ask as well, Millie? So from your classic rewatch or watch, do you have any favourite periods from there? Anything that's really kind of helped your obsession with Doctor Who?
yeah. I'm inexplicably drawn to the Pertwee era. I love the.
Yes.
That's not inexplicable. That's wonderful.
No,
Well, it
he's
supersedes
so
everything else
debonair and
in the classic era.
Go
Like,
on.
I mean, I like Tom's era, but
Yeah,
there's so many eras within Tom's era,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I struggle with the Davison era, just because although I like Davison, I'm not 100% on board with the companions yet. I just need to watch it a few more times to fully understand what they're all about.
yeah,
The McCoy era I haven't seen enough, so I don't really know much about it. I do love the black and white stuff, Hartnell especially, and I love Colin Baker because
yeah.
he's so he's so angry, so superior, and he just reminds me so much of Peter Capaldi. But no, Pertwee just does it for me.
Yes,
Everything
yeah,
about that whole 5 years, everything. Joe, Liz, Sarah,
yeah.
they're just unit. The brig. They're just
yeah.
they're like family. They're like a second family to me.
I wonder if there's something in that, because I find a lot of similarities between the Pertwee era and the current era for the reasons we talked about a minute ago. The fact that the storylines are constructed very intelligently, and they do connect with each other. There's a definite arc with Pertwee's Doctor from beginning to end, a kind of redemption. He starts in exile, doesn't know who he is, very angry and everything else, and has to work with people that he doesn't like initially, goes through the process with them. They start to become his family. Then he starts to reach away. And then, in the last few stories in the Pertwee era, he goes through some real trauma, especially in Planet of the Spiders. And the regeneration, the renewal he has at that point is a reinvention, literally, of who he's been up to that point. He's earned his badge again. He's become the Doctor again, and renews, regenerates, and that's how I see it. And I that's why I think it's no accident if you're drawn to the current era, that Pertwee era maybe also kind of sings to you as well in that way. Possibly, I could just be.
No, I don't think you're wrong there. And let's be honest, when Joe leaves and the Doctor drives off into the sunset with Bessie,
it still makes me cry.
Yeah. Doesn't matter how many times I see it.
Well, that's because we're going to experience that exact same thing in a couple of episodes' time when Yaz, however she leaves, I'm not sure how, and the Doctor is going to be distraught, and then she's going to die herself. So it's just going to be a horrendous, horrible episode, and I'm really dreading it.
Oh no!
I love Tennant's Doctor as well, and was a big fan of him. And I remember watching, his regeneration, and I was on my own when I watched it. Yeah, I was just sitting there, just bawling my eyes out. Yeah, and I felt sadness when the others went, particularly Capaldi. I really liked his Doctor. He had quite an arc, didn't he, in the transformation from a grumpy old git to someone who's much more kind of soft and caring. But I've sort of got Paul, you spoke before about an excitement for what comes after Jodie, and I do have that as well. But I kind of also have a dread of it ending, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to watch that last episode on my own. So, Millie, have you listened to much Big Finish as well? Because that's obviously a massive kind of companion part to everything, to the show, but it is in itself an ever-growing massive side universe as well. So have you done much in there?
No, I haven't done much Big Finish. I've done a couple. I've asked in the past which are the good ones to start with, and I got I think the Chimes of Midnight, the one with the Cybermen spare parts, and I've listened to a couple of Colin ones, but that's about it, really.
If we're talking about spare parts, look out for our podcast. Our podcast on that one is coming soon. Just get a little plug in there for that.
Yes, I saw your tweet about that one.
We haven't recorded it yet.
I saw your tweet about that one. And I replied just saying I've struggled with a bit with Big Finish because I can't focus very well when I've got no visuals, because I don't give it the attention that it deserves. Like, I need to be listening to it the way I would watch TV, like lying on the couch, with my eyes shut and absorbing it. But I don't. I listen to it the way I listen to a podcast or the way I listen to music, which is when I'm doing something else. So I can't focus on it and I lose track and I don't know what's going on. So I really need to, if I'm going to get into Big Finish, I need to change the way I listen to appreciate it.
Yeah, it is tricky in a way, isn't it? Paul, you sometimes listen when you're at work, don't you? And I find I can't listen to a podcast or even any music or anything, just kind of casually in the background. So I tend to listen to most of my Big Finish stuff when I'm driving, or sometimes I'll sit down on the sofa or in bed and listen to it, my eyes closed and things as well. But I think once you kind of really get into it and picturing it in your head, it works really well. And there's a lot of great stories across the whole lot, really. I mean, Paul, I've never listened to a bad one. I don't know about you, but
maybe. I mean, there's a few that I haven't quite got along with. I think there's only one. I'm not going to say what title it is because it's not fair, and I know other people will love it anyway. But there's, I think the nature of Big Finish, because of the way because of the size of it now, they can afford to be really experimental, and given the medium that these stories are told in, they can push it out quite a bit. And I think there's maybe one or two of those that I thought, okay, maybe that's not quite worked. But I know for a fact that other people have really, really enjoyed those stories. So I think, again, at the end of the day, it just comes down to personal preferences.
Yeah.
So I think you could be right there. I haven't really heard a bad one as such. Maybe just one or two that I haven't quite enjoyed as much as others.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like you say, it's personal preference, and the same with the show or movie or anything. Just because it hasn't clicked for the listener in this instance doesn't mean it's a bad one at all. It just, we all have different takes on things, don't we?
We do. It's interesting to listen to both of you talking about how you listen to Big Finish audios and things, and I think you're right. I agree actually, because I have tried to have them on when I'm working. It depends what work I'm doing as to whether or not I can actually focus on it. But most things, I can't. But I do remember in the early days when Big Finish started, I used to work away from home a lot. And I was quite often, I spent a lot of nights in just random hotels up and down the motorways in city centres and airports and things, just with nothing to do, pretty much on my own. I was a rep for a company, and and the first night you get to a hotel, it's like, oh, what should I do? Sit in your room, get some room service, whatever. And I used to take all my Big Finishes with me and load them into my laptop with the headphones on, turn the lights off, and just listen to them. And some of the most memorable stories are from that period, because I could focus on them and I could let the visuals take shape in the dark space around me. And there's one I particularly remember, which really turned my head, was the Fires of Vulcan, which was, I think, I can't remember if it's Sylvester McCoy or Colin Baker, but it certainly had Bonnie Langford in it as Mel. And I think I'm right in saying it was the first Mel story that we'd had in Big Finish, and I was never a big fan of her character on the show. I thought just didn't quite get it. But when she came on the Fires of Vulcan, and suddenly the character of Mel really came to life, for me personally, I thought this is brilliant. And that's one of the real big strengths, I think, of Big Finish, is the fact they've allowed companions and certain doctors to have more space to develop and breathe than we ever saw on TV. We've got writers who really, really get what those characters are about, and are prepared to sort of push them into some really, really dynamic places to explore, and put them under a stress test almost to see where they can go.
But they've done wonderful stuff with Colin's Doctor, haven't they?
They have, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly that.
And I'll say, Millie, if you liked, Colin's Doctor on TV, you'd love the Big Finish stuff. And he has quite a few stories with like Mrs. Constance Clark and Flip, which are brilliant. They make a really good team. Those three, and his stuff's just been fantastic, really.
No, I was just going to say, I have listened to a couple of Colin ones. I listened to the Marian Conspiracy. I really quite like that. I like historicals.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love that.
And the other one I listened to just recently was one with the Brig in it. The Spectre of Lanyon Moor.
Spectre of Lanyon Moor.
Yeah. That was quite enjoyable.
Love that one. Brilliant. Love that.
But that's about the limit of what I've listened to. I need to try more. I've bought lots. I just haven't listened to them yet. I've got the whole Jago and Light set box set. Just haven't listened to any of it.
Yeah, I saw that new Christopher Eccleston one had come out this week, and I thought, oh, is that a new series one? What's this? And I realised I hadn't listened to the third set yet, so I thought, I've got to get on that before I get that fourth set. So, and then I realised I had the Martha set to listen to as well, and a Jenny set, which I haven't listened to. So I was like, got a problem here. I need to get those in my ears first. So, Millie, there's quite a lot of Doctor Who books as well, or tons of them. The Target books and the new series books as well. Have you dived into that much, or is that something that you've yet to explore?
I thought I might start collecting the Target books last year, so I bought some heaps of secondhand ones from our local trading site. I got about 50 of them, and I've read 2.5.
Wow!
Oh wow!
Yeah.
It's a start.
I don't have time to
there,
read.
yeah.
I don't have time to read. I'm too busy making. I'm too busy making my
It's like punching the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, no, there's a link.
Well, that's most TV shows you watch. That's it. It's the show. But obviously, we've got audios here,
It's
and,
a lot,
and
isn't
tons
it?
of books as well. You could basically spend all day, every day, doing Doctor Who stuff, which isn't a bad way to spend your
life
time.
doing Doctor Who.
Yes, like you say, Millie. I buy books and stuff as well, and just listed 3 Big Finish sets that I haven't listened to yet. So it is a challenge, I suppose, isn't it? We are blessed to have all of this stuff to watch and listen to and read. But yeah, there's so much of it that the time is ironically for a show about a Time Lord is not on our side in some ways. But Paul, you've got have you got all of the targets?
I have all of the original targets and several reprinted versions as well. I've got some of the those weird American Pinnacle books as well. I've got those, and I've got most of the recent releases. So like the Witchfinders and the Crimson Horror, Day of the Doctor. I've got those, so it's pretty much there. Yeah, I spent a lot of my teenage years literally hunting down Target novels, and it was good because they were sort of readily available then. You could go into a shop and you would find some and the difficulty really became as the collection got bigger and there were fewer titles that I needed to get my collection. It was always difficult finding those last few. But there was a massive bookshop in Tottenham Court Road, which is still there, Foyle's Bookshop.
Oh yeah.
It's changed a bit since then, and now it's just kind of like a massive Waterstones. But back in the day, it was. I mean, it was like 4 or 5 floors of books, and their Doctor Who section was brilliant. They would literally have every single Doctor Who Target novel in paperback, in hardback. Is where I got all my hardbacks from. So that was quite a nice source. And I used to nip up there on a Saturday occasionally once I'd saved up enough money, and it would be a treat. So go to Carnaby Street, buy some ridiculous clothes, go across to Virgin Megastore, and then spend the rest of the afternoon just going through the Doctor Who section in Foyle's bookshop and just stocking up with whatever money I had left. So that was good fun.
Yeah, I used to do a day every summer holiday to go up to London, and I'd go to the cinema store in St Martin's Lane and Forbidden Planet as well. And I think there used to be another shop as well. And I'd usually come home with a poster of some sort, a big one sheet and a book or something. And yeah, like you, Paul, used to sort of love going up and just spending ages going through all this there and doing all that. Have you got anywhere like that where you are, Millie, that's kind of geek focus? Because a lot of kind of like Waterstones is quite a big bookshop chain in our country, and they have a section, don't they, Paul? But it's often sort of
it's hit and miss, isn't it? Depending where you are, I think. So some towns have a really good section, but
yeah.
I don't know if anything anywhere near me. I do all my shopping pretty much online these days. There might be some stuff around, but you got to sort of hunt for it, and I'm not very good at that. So yeah, you can find everything you need online.
When it's exactly. It's that's great as well because like you were saying, Paul. As your target collection got bigger, and you had less ones to get, but they became harder to find. Maybe with the
and there was no online shopping in them days either.
Exactly,
it was all physical. You had to go into a shop and actually look at the book section to see what they had. And if they didn't have a title that you hadn't got, then it's a wasted journey, which is really sad. And,
So, Millie, my next question is kind of about your Doctor Who collection, and in a minute we'll talk about your own special collection of Doctor Who stuff that is entirely unique to you. But do you have anything else, like any figures, Funko Pops, anything like that forms part of your collection? Like Paul, you've got a TARDIS behind you, haven't you? I don't know if
that's it. That's all I got. I don't do Funko Pops or Hot Toys or any of that stuff. It just
I don't know. I've got a 13 on the shelf behind me. I don't know if you can see it.
I can't see amongst all that junk that you've got there, Jeff.
Well, I am due to move office soon.
What is that? That's just junk. That's just rubbish. I'd put a curtain in front of that if I were you, mate. Oh, look, there she is. There you go. There's your little Jodie. Ah, that's beautiful.
She's on the shelf next.
Thanks for sharing that, mate.
That's all right.
I've got.
You could have just Googled it. I didn't.
Have you?
Yeah, I've got that figure as
So
well.
I always wanted to get the one. Yeah, I always wanted to get the one of her in the coat, which was released at San Diego Comic-Con. And I chatted online to someone a couple of years ago, and they were going to try and get it for me because they were at the convention and they couldn't get it. And then it was supposed to be released, commercially to be able to go and buy in the shops and things. It never came out, and I saw it at one of the Comic-Cons in London maybe 2 years ago, and it was 250 quid. And I thought, I do really want that. And I said to the guy, if you make it £25, I said, you got a deal.
Take that zero off the end of that one, son.
Yeah, shift the decimal point.
You can take that off.
Yeah, but he was having none of it.
So, Millie, I really, really want to talk to you about your clay creations. I'm looking at your Twitter page, and I'm always drawn back to it every time you put a new post out there with a new photograph on it, because they are so full of personality, they are so full of character, and they're so beautifully done. I want to know how did you start, or decide to start creating these sculptures? Was it because you're an artistic person, you do this anyway, and you thought, obsessed with Doctor Who? Was it that sort of natural thing, or tell me about it?
Firstly, thank you so much for those nice words. That's really, really sweet. And also,
this is all right. I mean it genuinely.
Yeah, honestly, the stuff is absolutely fantastic, and like Paul said, each figure, captures the essence of that character so well, and they're just a joy to look at, really.
Thank you so much. It makes me happy that people get some joy out of them, because that's why I started doing it, because it was during lockdown, the first lockdown in 2020, when the whole world was just upset. So I just wanted to make people smile. But I've always been I've always been an artist. I've always been arty since I was a small child. That's why I probably didn't watch Doctor Who as a kid, because I would have just been in the corner of the room doing some sort of art. Not noticing anything else that's in my surroundings, which is what I still do today. So I go through so many phases of all different types of mediums. I went through a phase for about 3 years of making Lego, and I went through a phase of making dolls' houses. I went through a phase or every phase you can think of, and then finally I just picked up some polymer clay, and I thought, oh, this would be a fun new phase. So I tried a few little Doctor Who figures at the end of 2019, really, really small ones. And I didn't really achieve what I wanted to achieve with those. So I just sort of put it on the shelf and didn't think about it again until mid 2020, when I just thought, okay, I've joined Twitter. I'm going to see what this Twitter thing's all about. Apparently there's a big Doctor Who fan base on Twitter. It might be interesting to be part of. What's the best way to get some friends is just to show off some art that is Doctor Who related art. So I pulled out the polymer clay from the garage and I just started, and it just took off from there. And it's been very enjoyable, and I've got to meet so many people. By meet, I mean, online, not real people, but people on virtual people that just write little tweets and stuff. So but that's been fun. It's just been great. And I just get quite obsessed with it.
What was the first character? What was the first Doctor Who character that you created in this medium, Millie?
Well, sorry, I'll just hop in for a second, because I'm just looking through your pictures, and there's one that you posted of 2 10th Doctors. So that's showing the kind of evolution of your style, isn't it?
Yes. That first 10th Doctor was my very first figure. So the first one. So on the last image, it's got the one I just did last week, and then the very first one I did. So I did the first one I did was David Tennant at the beginning, because I knew that everybody loved David Tennant. So I thought people might look at it. People might look at it. Yeah. So that's why I did him first, even though he wasn't my favourite Doctor, because at that stage Capaldi was my favourite Doctor. And
Right. But looking at it, the one on the left, he's brilliant, and then you look at the one on the right, and it's even more brilliant. It's fascinating seeing the evolution of an artist and their work and things, and you can just see the kind of, I think, your confidence and skill in what you're doing and the increase in detail. You can look at the difference between the two Sonics and things, and the hair and everything. It's just brilliant looking at them. And there's a shot of a shad with Jodie, which is lovely. So how do you do? Oh, sorry, I've kind of hijacked the thread of what
So he
we were
does
talking
it every
about.
time. Sorry,
Yeah, I
mate.
do.
Go for it.
How do you get the backgrounds on them? And you've got the lighting effect here and things. If you've got little sets that you do, or do you get a background up on a computer? Because I see that sometimes with people who do like photography of Hot Toys figures and things. They might do it in front of a computer screen with the image on.
Yeah, that's exactly how I do it. So I get an image. I mostly use that Tragical History Tour website, because there's just screenshots of every 30 seconds of every single episode that's ever been, and if I can't get a clean image in the background, I'll try and really badly scrub out the people as well as I can on just the 3D paint. I don't have Photoshop or anything, but yeah, so I scrub them out. So then I have that, and I put them on my monitor, my computer, and then I just get a piece of nice coloured paper under the bottom to make it look like some sort of ground that could potentially work with the background. And then I just light it using just like LED lamps. I haven't really got a proper lighting system sorted out, and they're all photographed on my phone.
I take pictures of my Funko Pop models and Hot Toys and stuff, and yeah, I take them all on my phone, and I think they work fine. And I've got a little LED light that you can change the color of, and I use that and just a little lamp to kind of front light them, which works fine. So you've done a gel guard, which is just
I love that. I love the gel guard.
And what have you put in it? Is it like what's made this? They look like marbles or something.
They're glass cabochons.
I don't know what it is. Okay.
So they're the same thing that I use for the eyes on all of my figures.
Right, because that's when the eyes have got a real they look kind of alive, don't they? They're not just they've got
so they're little
they're
little half circles made out of glass, and I just for the eyes I just print off little eyes that I find on the internet, and I make them really, really small, and then print them all off, and then I just glue them to the back, and then you shove them into the wet clay, and they bake because they're glass, so that they're fine to bake. And,
right.
Yeah.
I see.
I was just going to say, I love your Omega as well.
Yeah.
Next to the gel guard, he looks. There's expression in the mask as well. There's a kind of sorrowful and yet dominant expression on his little face. It's beautiful, brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah,
I like your self-portrait as well.
Oh, my self-portrait, yes.
It's good.
Fun. And the little tiny ones.
You've got your hat there. Yeah. I've just seen your third Doctor as well with Bessie. So what do you do with the figures when they're done? Tell me you don't destroy them.
Oh, no. No, I don't destroy them. They're just every flat surface in the house. They're there. There's honestly
they're there. Brilliant. How many have you made?
The last count was 160, but that was maybe a month ago. So they're not all Doctor Who. There are a few other things as well, but in total of everything that I've made in the last year and a half is over 160.
Wow, that's fantastic. So tell me, what is your favourite one that you've done, and what was the most difficult one to make?
The most difficult one was the special weapons Dalek, because I hate making Daleks. They're really, really hard. And this was even harder than a regular Dalek. And I, for some reason, decided to make him swivel as well. So I had to try and figure out the engineering behind that. And so that one took me a good 24 hours or so in total to make him. And but my favourite one is definitely Ashad, the lone Cyberman. I'm so impressed with that I managed to pull that off with his, the half face, and
Brilliant. Yeah.
and I love the paintwork I did on his, because they're not, most cases the figures aren't painted because they're made with coloured clay. But every now and then I do add a bit of paint to some of them, especially some of the monsters. They're often get a bit of a paint job because you just can't get the subtleties in the clay that their skin requires. But all the people, all their clothes and everything like that, that's all coloured clay. So it's got an extra level of skill to it, I suppose, in trying to. You have to do everything. You kind of just dress them like a doll, really, because they're dressed with individual pieces of clay instead of all the same color and then having to paint it afterwards. But a shade is a little bit painted because anything metallic is painted.
Right. So does it go on a sort of a skeleton figure, or they're literally just you've molded the clay into the shape?
I create an armature first, a wire armature. So I have these little tiny pieces of wood that I hammer. I put 2 hammers in that grounds their feet, and then I wrap wire around and create a whole inside armature made out of wire. And if they have anything fat in the middle of them, in their midsection, like a monster sometimes does, it'll be bulked out with aluminium foil. And the middle of the heads are made with aluminium foil as well. And then you put clay over top of that. And so that means that they don't fall over because they've got a wire inside. And then you just sculpt the clay over top of the wire. And I bake them and bake them and bake them.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at a set of shots of Jodie's Doctor, and you can see again your sort of evolution of the style and the skill involved as well. But there's one photo there which is sort of a bust that you did of her, which also looks brilliant and is a little bit more sort of detailed in style as well. So have you done more like that, or is that the only one that you've done like that?
I've just done her, and I've just done Peter Capaldi. I wanted to just kind of expand my skills a little bit. So, because my figures are quite cartoonish, with the big heads and the big eyes, bright colours. So I kind of wanted to try a little bit more realism and get a little bit more realism in the sculpt and realistic faces and stuff like that. So I started with Jodie because I love that image of her on the Centauran episode where her hair's all sort of curly from the damp, and she's got that smile on. So I mimic that. I thought I'd make a little bust out of that, and then I really enjoyed doing that. So I made one of Peter Capaldi as well, but I haven't gone further on any other of the Doctors yet because I keep going back to my old style.
Right.
Much harder, and it took a lot longer. And that one is painted.
So, Which of the ones that you've done has been your favourite then? Is kind of your personal favourite?
Ashad is my personal favourite, but probably second favourite would be.
He's good, isn't
he? The Aztec Barbara Yataxa from the Aztecs.
Yes, I was looking at that one. It's beautiful.
She seems to be quite popular too. Whenever I repost her, she seems to get quite a lot of attention. So I'm pretty proud of her. I thought she was pretty lovely. But there's something about the Lone Cyberman that he's not my best figure, even because that was done nearly a year ago now, and I could probably even do better now. But the time it took me to do and the attention I put to it, and just purely because I love that episode, The Haunting of Villa Diodati, so much. Whenever I love a character in an episode, there's just a different level of love that goes into my sculpt.
How long does it take you to do one of these figures on average?
On average,
was that
10 hours?
Yeah.
So some of them
wow.
On average, some of them I can pull out pretty quick in maybe about 5 hours, and then other ones, like I mentioned before, the special weapon style, took about 24 hours. So they vary depending on their capacity. But I've got to allow at least 10 hours.
You had a Sea Devil there as well, didn't you? From which I think appeared literally the day after the first trailer for the new Sea Devil episode, and you you'd got it from, just from that one shot on the trailer. You got the character, you got the design, everything just looks right about it.
Yeah, I got really obsessed when I saw that trailer. I got really, really excited.
Did you?
Yeah. So I went back and I watched all the Sea Devils again, and I created
Yeah.
the Sea Devil from Warriors of the Deep as well. And then I tried the one
Yes,
from the
I
promo
saw
picture
that one.
from Legends of the Sea Devil. Yeah, I can't wait.
That's why
I can't wait for that
named one,
episode.
didn't we?
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah.
It's going to be good.
We named one of your Sea Devil models, didn't we, the other day? Did you see that, Paul? That was on the podcast account, wasn't it, Millie? What did we call it?
Yes, it was. It was on your Warriors of the Deep
yes.
one. It was the mixture of your two
I
names.
can't remember I can't remember what it was now, but yeah, I was quite pleased about that.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
So who are you working on at the moment, and what character have you not yet done that you'd like to do?
River Song. Sorry, I answered the second question first.
Ooh.
The one I'd love to. I'm waiting. She's like one of my all-time favorite characters in all of fiction ever. And I just don't feel I have enough confidence and skill yet to actually pull her off perfectly, because I want to make her, and I just want to make her once and not have to revisit her. I just want her to be perfect. So I haven't made her yet. But the one I'm working on at the moment is the one I want to start. I'm going to work on this weekend is because I've just done the 10th Doctor, the 9th Doctor, and the 11th Doctor. Revisited them from my first one, so I thought, well, I might as well carry on. So I'm going to do the 12th Doctor this weekend.
Brilliant.
A new version of him. Yeah.
So you've had, we said earlier, you got featured, in Doctor Who magazine, and Ray Holman has talked about your work and things. And when you started this, did you ever expect to get this sort of notice on the work and the response that you've had to it?
No way. Not at all. I'm just a little old Kiwi. I'm just sitting here at the bottom of the world just doing some random stuff, and then all of a sudden, I'm in the Doctor Who magazine. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But it shows what the internet can do and how it can bring people together, and a shared love for something, and and a talent as well. Have you ever thought about putting any of the figures up for sale? Because I would imagine they'd go quite nicely.
I did think about it a while ago because I was getting so many, but I'm really lazy, and it's a lot of effort to sell them, trying to explain to people how much they're going to cost. It's original, one of a kind artwork, and I've mentioned a few prices to some people a few times, and you get that silence, that awkward silence, because they think it's just to pay much more, but it's not. And then there's also the shipping. I live in New Zealand, and everybody who wants to buy them is either in America or the UK, and the shipping from New Zealand for all the amount of packaging it would need, because it would just get turned to smithereens on the posting, as it's going to cost a good $60 or more to post, and it's just, I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered, and plus I don't think they're good enough. I really truly don't think that they're good enough for when people see them on the shelf. Like, because in the photos I try to make them look as pretty as possible, but if people actually get them and see them on their shelf, and then they can look at them up close, they will see all the bits that aren't very good, and the bits that the detail isn't quite great.
But those, the fingerprints in them and things like that is
that's part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But the little imperfections are what it makes them special. I was watching Snow White with my twins last week.
You watch Snow White a lot, mate.
Yeah, we like it, but there was a shot where, do you know, like the multi-plane technique that they used on the old Disney cartoons, where they had basically a series of shells, and the camera would look down through them, and then they would move the plates of glass.
Oh yes, to get a feeling of going into it. Yeah.
and it was revolutionary. But when we were watching the film, the shot pulled back, and then you could see the bottom of the front glass plate in the shot. where the camera would come too far forward, and I thought, oh, I quite like that the film is pushing 100 years old, but it's that little, it's showing that it's all done by hand, on it, and I quite like that little mistake that I spotted there. So yeah, you saying that stuff about your models there, Millie, but the fact that they are handmade and got all your kind of love and creativity into them is what makes them special, I think. But yes, I understand the option of sending them around the world. They're so delicate, and doing a rebuild your own Millie model when you get it is perhaps not as it's not going to be.
Send them with a free tube of
Do you have any to hand? Do you have any to hand there?
I
Millie?
do.
Or are they in a different room?
No, I brought a couple of my flux ones for you to see.
Can you show us? Go on, show us, please.
Oh wow, he is so good. Not just the model, but Swarm in himself.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, and you've even got the little crack in the head as well. Wow. That's one of the things I really like about her prosthetic, that little indent in it.
And then
that's the only one.
Look at that. That's so good. Look at
that. Is brilliant. I love that.
You can see that the fear in her face that she had in the show, and the way it's gone from the blue of the top to the. I guess you've painted for the kind of
it's not,
the stone effect.
There's no paint on her at all.
Really?
No?
Wow.
Oh wow.
Wow. So good.
How long did that one take to do, Millie?
I can't remember. Maybe 12 hours.
Yeah.
So I've got the Funkos. I've got quite a few of them, but they haven't released any for a couple of years now, which was a bit of a crime. But I think someone should take your models and make more of them, so that I can buy one and that can be my.
Then they become commercial. And
well, yeah, they will. But basically, I'd like to have one because I can't buy one. Yeah.
I'd like that too. I think that would be a great idea, because then everybody could have them, and they would be little vinyl things that they can have on their shelf. I'd love that.
Yeah.
They just 3D scan them, and then they can make them.
Yeah. But then Paul's right. It takes away the the uniqueness of them. But then people can have something.
They can. I mean, it's just a difference between having an original Picasso and a Picasso reproduced in a print. That's all it is. I've got my Liechtenstein behind me. It's not an original, it's just a poster. It's the best thing I can have. I'd love to have a real Roy behind me on my wall, but I can't. I'm just not rich enough. So the poster does, and it fulfills me. What can I say?
Well, I've got, you can't see it from there, but I've got my Terminator 2 poster.
Terminator, I will be back.
When I was about 11, Paul told this story before, but I watched Terminator 2 at a friend's house, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I went away and I thought, who is this Arnie guy? I need to find out more about him. Then I thought, who is James Cameron? And I thought, he's a guy, he makes this stuff. And then I was like, I want to make this stuff. And for a while, I wanted to be James Cameron. And I didn't quite get there. But I got that poster because a couple of years ago, we were doing a fitness project shoot. And the guy who managed the video shop that I used to work at, he said, can my son come along? He's studying film. And I said, yeah, sure, we'll get him in for a couple of days on work experience. And they came to the shoot. They said, oh, we've got something for you as a thanks. And they'd found that in a shop like the week before. And the dad said, oh, we must get this for Jeff because this is his favourite film. And for years, I'd wanted to get a Terminator 2 poster. So now I got one. So
that's awesome.
Well done.
I was quite pleased about that. Millie, before we go, what are your hopes for the future of Doctor Who, and what are you looking forward to?
I really hope that the next Doctor will be even more progressive than the current one. So either another woman, or preferably a woman of colour, or some other race, or a non-binary person, or non-gender specific person
Yeah.
or trans person or something like that. Something. If I know it's all about how good the actor is, but honestly, if we just get another young, fancy, pretty white male, I will be a little bit upset. I just feel that we've come so far, and that would be a little bit of a step backwards now.
Yeah.
So I really hope that it keeps going forward. It keeps going forward. We can go back to that in a few years' time, but just for this next one, please don't just push Jodie away and say, well, that was a failure.
Yeah.
Just keep going forward.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Well, it's been absolute pleasure talking to you and getting to see your models as well in nearly in the flesh, in the virtual flesh. But I look forward to seeing more of your creations online.
Definitely.
I wanted to ask, so your handle is at Cowbear Creates. Where does that come from?
That is the nickname for my cat, Carrie. So I've got 3 cats. And Carrie, when he was a kitten, he just, for some reason, his name just started to become Cowbear. And so, that just seemed to feel nice for like a type of name that I would have if I was some sort of company that created things. So I went Cowbear Creations. So,
yeah, it's good. It kind of
sticks in your mind, doesn't it?
It does a bit, yeah. It's like my film company is called Silvertip, and it's a name.
I can't believe, Jeff, you just plugged your film company.
I did, yeah. If you go to this web address, you can hire me for work. But, people remember the name, and I had someone said to me once, where did it come from? Is it like silver-tipped bullets that you shoot werewolves with? And I was like, not really. They don't exist, do they, mate? And but he was a big horror fan. But actually, my dad goes to Alaska every summer to go fishing, like wilderness and on the gravel bars, and there's bears and stuff around. And he's got grey hair, and they call him Silvertip up there. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'll have that. Yeah. And then one day when I showed Dad something I'd made, and the Silvertip animation came up, he said, that's what they call me in Alaska. I was like, yeah, I know. Where do you think I got it from? I didn't just come up with the same name. So, yeah, having something that's personal to you and quite. So yeah, Cowbear Creates is an interesting name. It sticks in the mind. So brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us on Who Corner to Corner, and we'd love to get you back again at some point. Perhaps we can.
Oh yes, please.
Do a chat through on a Jodie episode or something, or a tearful. Post-centenary episode.
Stop. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. I'm too sad.
The whole world would go into a shocked silence.
There'd
be nothing on Twitter or anything apart from just ...
and crying emojis.
Yeah. No, it's been wonderful talking to you, Millie. Thank you so much for staying up late and joining us before we've even started our day. It's wonderful, and thank you for sharing your creations.
Thank you so much,
and thank you for your support of the podcast as well.
Definitely,
it's incredible. Yeah,
thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Millie. Enjoy your evening. Is that right? Yes. It's night time. It's probably going to bed.
It's 20 past 11. It's bedtime.
It's 20 past 11. Oh my goodness. We'd better let you go. Thank you, Millie, again.
Thank you very much. Speak to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.